the hell? Hello?
So, do you know what this is? It's called the Devil's Face, and it appeared on the map in Atlanta. Atlanta is considered one of the most religious places on Earth, and it was told that it could signal a sign. The plants in the land formed together to make what looks like a face that was seen from a satellite. This scared so many people within Atlanta's area that they began working on the area literally to wipe it out completely. They began cutting down the trees and flattening everything until you could no longer see a face. From that point on, the face literally disappeared. Do you think this was a coincidence?
This is the story about the blind woman who could see ghosts. So this girl who was blind at birth lived with her father on a single ranch house. So because she was blind at birth, she had spatial awareness. Pretty much she knew how far apart everything was based on what she touched. One day in the living room, the blind woman was talking to a ghost named Ellie. So Ellie said to the blind woman her name and asked her why her face was so messed up. So the blind woman then asked, "Why is my face messed up? What's wrong with it?" And at that point, the father then heard the conversation and snagged the blind woman out of the room and said, "Who were you talking to?" The blind woman then replied, "I was speaking to Ellie," and then the father laughed. Over the course of the next few months, the blind woman started speaking to over 13 ghosts. And each time she would speak, her father would get very, very upset at her for speaking to ghosts. So one day, the blind woman fell in the kitchen and had to call the paramedics. And once the paramedics arrived there, she asked, "Can my dad come with me to the hospital?" The paramedic then replied, "Your dad's been dead for 6 years." Make sure to like for a part 2.
The tale of La Llorona originated in Mexico and is also sometimes called the Weeping Woman. The story tells of a beautiful young woman who met a wealthy nobleman, fell in love with him, and eventually they married and had 2 twin boys. As years passed, her husband grew cold and distant, only showing affection to their children until eventually he left her and married another woman. Completely shocked and humiliated, she took her 2 boys down to the river and drowned them without a second thought. Once she realized what she had done, she drowned herself in the river as well, in hopes that she would be reunited with her children in the afterlife. However, because she had done something so terrible, her spirit was forced to roam the earth, constantly searching for her children. People claim to see her by the river at night, crying and pleading for her children to come to her. It is said that if her spirit approaches a child, she will confuse them for her own and sink them into the river as well once she realizes they are not hers.
This might look like a normal photo, but it's actually one of the most chilling ghost photos I've ever seen. In 1942, this photo was taken at this couple's wedding with a box camera. The couple is smiling, but somebody else in the picture is not very happy about this day. If you pay close attention to the tree on the right, you'll notice something disturbing. An image of an angered woman in the trees is shown reaching out at the couple. Now this actual photo was passed down through the generations, so there's no way that it could have been photoshopped. When you zoom in again, the image is even more terrifying.
You will need to be seated in a brace position for landing. To brace, place your feet flat on the floor, cross your wrist, and hold onto the seat back in front of you. Rest your hands on your wrists. For those passengers seated in a forward row, that's row 1 and row 4, place your feet flat on the floor. Bend over, place your face in your lap, put your arms under your legs, and grasp your elbow. Brace.
This is why you should never live next to crazy people. In 2015, a girl who was totally fed up with her noisy neighbors finally worked up the courage to go over there and tell them to be quiet. She knocks on the door and out walks this insane looking old woman who just starts hissing at her. And she doesn't stop hissing at her until the girl finally just leaves. She considers calling the police, but ultimately just goes back to her room and goes to bed. But she wakes up a couple hours later when she hears that same hissing sound. Her first thought is there's no way this can be my neighbor because she had her door locked. But then she notices there's a big lump right next to her in her bed and she reaches over to check who it is. Her crazy neighbor leaps out of bed and runs into the closet.
Hello? Hello? Who's there?
me in here. She locked me down here.
Emma did?
I'm Emma.
Oh my god.
Hurry, hurry.
Oh, okay, hold on. I'm gonna go get Parker.
No, wait, no, wait,
Oh no. Oh no.
Anybody want a creepy story time? So for all you skeptics that are out there, I have something following me. I've had something follow me since I was 19 years old. I have pictures for proof. I have people that have witnessed these things happening to me. I will post the pictures if you want me to. But like I said, it started when I was 19. I did a Ouija board on Halloween night. Do not recommend. The next day, I was sitting in the truck with my now ex-boyfriend. We were watching a movie. He had a DVD player in there. And the truck started shaking really, really hard. And something was banging on the passenger side door, trying to get into the door. He had to reach over and hold the door closed to make sure that whatever was trying to get in couldn't get in. I looked out the window, he looked out the window, nothing there. So we finally drove away after about 5 minutes of this happening. We drove to a gas station down the road from us, and I look out my window, and there's a giant handprint on the passenger side window, and it was sliding down. And yeah, that's where it all started, like for part 2.
This is why you should never get McDonald's past 3 a.m. A man and his girlfriend were in a McDonald's drive-thru deciding what to eat, but they were quite disturbed by the sinister voice on the other side of the intercom. When it was time to pay, the girl had to use the restroom, so she hopped out of the car, went inside, and walked into the stall. Suddenly, she heard the door swing open, and the person who walked in was breathing very heavily. She ignored it for a few minutes, but the breathing got gradually closer. She peeked through the crack of the stall when she saw an eye staring right back at her. She pretended like she didn't notice, but then the person said in a chilling voice, "How long do you think it'll take him to notice that something's wrong?" It was the employee from the window. She swung the door open, hitting him right in the face, and made a run for the car. He tried chasing her, but was soon stopped by her boyfriend, who knocked him out cold. He called the cops, and needless to say, this was the last time they visited McDonald's at night ever again.
1 Minute Horrors, Episode 11, America's Real-Life Zombie Attack. Surgical warning. Around 1 p.m. on May 26, 2012, the Miami, Florida Police Department received this call.
Listen, there's a naked man on the MacArthur Causeway. At the end of the causeway coming towards Biscayne Boulevard, he is beating another man to a pulp, like on top of the man, beating him. The man is bleeding. The police saw 31-year-old Rudy Eugene punching, stripping the clothes off, and eating the face of 65-year-old Ronald Papo. Papo, homeless, was lying above a people remover viaduct when Eugene encountered him. Officer Jose Ramirez, horrified, firstly warned Eugene to get off of Papo. Refusing so, Eugene reportedly growled at Ramirez. Ramirez then shot him but proved ineffective. He then fatally shot him 4 more times, ending the scene. With worldwide coverage, Eugene was dubbed the Miami Zombie. An autopsy revealed that he had no human flesh in his stomach but only cannabis. Papo survived with his face almost ripped off. He went through many surgeries but had to remain blind and disfigured. When interviewed, he said that Eugene kindly approached him, talked about the world ending, then accused him of stealing a Bible that he bought, and subsequently viciously attacked him.
Things that actually happened to me at work, Ghost Edition. Now, I work in this really creepy, really old building. And my coworkers and even my boss have told me that the building is haunted. So supposedly some guy died in the basement. And guess what area I worked? The basement. So I show up to work this one day. It's 5 a.m. Now, because this building is really old, all the light switches are really weird. So in this one part, I had to walk all the way down this really dark hallway just to get to the light switch to flip it on. So I'm walking through it, trying not to freak out, you know. And then coming out of one of the rooms, alarmingly loud, I heard this. When I tell you, I turned and ran for my life. So I go find my boss and I'm like, hey, I think somebody's practicing downstairs in one of the organ rooms, and it scared the crap out of me. And this man looks at me and he says, Elise, nobody's in the building until 7 a.m. It's literally just us. And you want to know the real kicker? The guy that died in the basement? Yeah, he was a piano technician.
Today we're looking at some creepy ghost photos with even creepier stories. Let's get it started. This photo was taken in the 1930s at a family reunion. It appears to show a female spirit nestled in the middle of the group. Years later, family members have claimed to see the spirit in the 60s and 70s, often standing beside them or at the end of their beds. She's seen here wearing a fitted white dress and a brooch around her waist. In 1984, a teenager was a victim of a fatal car crash. This photograph was taken shortly after the incident by local police. When the pictures were developed, police were shocked by what they saw in one of the frames. Clearly visible above the open driver's side door, you can see a head and shoulders. The face is contorted with a screaming open mouth. The creepiest part is that's actually the boy who died that night. This picture was taken in 1977 and it appears to show a woman in white walking past a house. The person who took the photo was shocked when he saw this on film because nobody was present besides the workman you see at the back when the photo was taken.